Looks like we're set up. Welcome everyone to the 11th Open Charging Network Developer Community Call for June 2021. On the call today, we've got myself, developer at Energy Web. I'm John. Nice to meet you. We've got Robert Sprunk, the product owner for the OCN, also with Energy Web, and Adam Stavely, developer with Energy Web. And also, you can see we have Whitney here as well. Welcome, Whitney. Do you want to give a quick intro, Whitney? Is this your first call?
Yes, thanks, John. Hi, I'm Whitney. I recently joined Energy Web as the technical community manager, so I look forward to hearing more about what's going on in the Open Charging Network. Thank you.
Right on, thanks. Yeah, welcome again. So for today, the agenda is to talk about the change to the authentication token support that is included in OCPI 2.2 D2, but that we also now support in the OCN, and talk a bit about OCPI 3, and then go through some DID and VC information and talk about potential use cases for the OCN as well. But just before that, I wanted to just circle back to Share&Charge becoming part of the Energy Web. We made an announcement about this a little over a month ago, but just wanted to circle back here to reiterate it. As you can see on the slide, Share&Charge continues as an independent brand, but Energy Web will be supporting the current OCN and the development of a DID-based future OCN 2.2 or 2.0 rather. Any comments on that, Robert or Adam?
No, all good. Maybe just to add that, yeah, this was published in our Medium blog. Press release is there. So if someone wants to get more information, you can just go to Energy Web Insights on Medium.
Great. And I would add, feel free to reach out to us with any comments or questions as well. So to move on now to the OCPI 2.2 D2 authentication token support, perhaps Adam, you can speak to this a bit more. But to start, yeah, this was a change in OCPI 2.2 D2 that involved the encoding of the auth token. So we now support this additional encoding in the OCN node supports this, and it's backwards compatible. So old tokens are valid as well. So the download is available on the OCN node downloads page, and we will push a Docker version of it soon. Anything to add to this, Adam?
Yeah, I guess the release is a release candidate, but we've now tested it with a partner, seems to be working fine. And I guess we are confident of releasing a full version shortly. And yeah, the focus was on backwards compatibility so that parties already connected to the existing OCN node we set up can continue to use it when we upgrade the OCN node version. But it just means that all new connecting parties will need to base64 encode their tokens as per the spec.
Right.
Encode them. I think we wrote that we should no longer encode them.
In D2, I think it's the other way around.
It says
At
not
least
encoded in base64.
that was our feedback. Oh. Really? We received this feedback from a partner, and I also read the D2, and maybe we both misread it.
I mean, it could be me. I'm not going to say that I know best. So there might be some
Because I thought the problem was that the specification wasn't clear enough about encoding, and so.
Yeah, the difference is, I mean, sending the token over the line. So sending it in the HTTP request, then it's base64 encoded.
Exactly, yeah.
And if you put it in when you send it over the line in the credentials module, then it's not base64 encoded.
Yeah, that's how I understood it.
Oh, and then you had the HTTP request not base64 encoded.
That was how it was previously, yeah.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's not. Those should always be base64 encoded. Yeah, good fix.
All right. Glad. Yeah, welcome, Robert. Thanks for jumping in. Glad we clarified that.
So, sorry, I was a bit late.
Yeah, not to worry. Glad to have you here. I don't have anything else to add to that, and maybe that's a good segue then to talking about OCPI 3 a little bit. We at Energy Web and Share&Charge are getting more involved with OCPI 3, and definitely it will be a part of the OCN's future. Yeah, perhaps Robert Sprunk, if you want to guide the conversation here a bit.
Yeah, sure, happy to. Yeah, so we joined the EV Roaming Foundation, who is governing the development of OCPI. And we thought this is quite important to the OCN, of course. So we joined them and already participated in the first working group discussion around the business use cases. It was already very interesting and very fruitful, and very noticed that they are now also looking closer to ISO 15118, also identifying some roles that they have already defined and how they can support this also from an OCPI perspective. And of course, also looking into the more closer integration of the energy grid and the energy industry, which of course here with Energy Web welcome a lot. So that's why we also think we're on the right track, exactly combining these two worlds. And yeah, we will also be happy to get your input from the wider Share&Charge community. So if there's anything that you think should be improved in OCPI, or even if you have some completely new models in your mind, please also approach us, or better yet, join the e-roaming foundation and also get a seat in the discussion. The whole process was very, very nice, very seamless for us, and also very productive. So we can highly recommend this, especially if you're working with OCPI yourself, which I think all of you are if you're using the OCN already.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be more to come on this front in the months to come.
Yeah, we're now working on the business use cases. I'm expecting that somewhere around summer we should be able to release those also to the general public. So people not within the EV Roaming Foundation, hopefully we can share already the business use cases. So give an insight on the direction that OCPI 3.0 is going into. I think that's really useful also to show people that, hey, there's really work going on in the EV Roaming Foundation. So they know, hey, if you want to be part of that, you have to join, because these guys are already making progress here with 3.0. So if you want to contribute, you need to join. So yeah, hopefully that also helps. And I think the approach we're now taking, I mean, when we started doing OCPI early on, it really started as technology push. So yeah, let's write a protocol to fix something. And now by looking first on the business use case and then going down to functional use case and then the protocol, I think we will end up with a better protocol than we had with 2.0. So still a lot of work to do, but I think also the group and the spirit in the group is really good and positive. So that's always fun to work with a team like that. At least I hope that Robert agrees with that.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was already impressive first meeting, especially given that we just joined. Yeah, really looking forward to and definitely support this roadmap, starting from the business side, I think that's why also it's now a really good point for other participants to join, because the conversation has started. And we also see the interaction with the ISO 15118 progress is also like time-wise just the exact right moment here.
Great, thanks, Robert DeLu, for the timeline and for talking about the potential release of the business use cases. And that's interesting to hear about the functional first approach.
Thanks.
Any other comments also on this before I move to the DID and VC topic, which I just previewed there? No, I guess, yeah, like I said, there'll be more to come, I'm sure, on OCPI 3 then. Stay tuned. So moving on then to the DID documents and DID subjects. Well, I suppose moving on more generally to DIDs and VCs, what I wanted to do here is give an introduction for folks on the line and for anyone listening afterwards on DIDs and VCs, at least how I see them. And perhaps we can have a discussion on if there's any other perspectives that other folks bring regarding these topics. And then I was hoping to, I have a couple ideas on how DIDs could work in the OCN, definitely just in the idea stage, nothing concrete. But I want to discuss those and see if there were any other ideas from folks on the line. But to start, like I said, I wanted to give an overview of DIDs and how they work with verifiable credentials. So on this slide, there's an example of a DID and a DID document. The DID in this case is the DID : example : 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the alphabet there. It denotes a DID subject, which in this case is this person, but could be an entity more generally. Could be an IoT device or a vehicle or a charge point, or even something a little more ephemeral like an organization or something. So that DID then resolves to a DID document, which has a set of properties. The core ones there are the authentication and service. Essentially, the authentication lists the public keys associated with this DID, and the service is a bit of an innovation, I'd say, and the DIDs are bringing to the table a way of associating service endpoints as well with identifiers. So essentially, at their core, as I see it, DIDs are a nice way of solving the PKI challenges that have been ongoing for a long time. So maybe just to talk about that a little bit more, this is the maybe classic like PKI set of relationships. And these are some great slides, by the way, pulled from the SSI meetup. I definitely recommend that folks check that out for more information on SSI, which stands for Self-Sovereign Identity, which encapsulates this DID and verifiable credential technology space. At any rate, yeah, on this slide, showing that the identifier, in this case, the DID, is generated from the public key. So that's, I would say, one of the innovations of DIDs, where there's a binding from the public key to the identifier because just cryptographically speaking, there isn't a need to bind through a certificate, say, where we're now like certificates on the web, you bind a domain name to a public key. The binding is done cryptographically, and then the controller can publish the identifier, and because they control the private key, then they can prove control of the identifier. Any points to make for anyone at this point, or any questions? If not, the next bit about DIDs is how to do key rotation. So just going back a slide, in this first public key, that's the public key that's initially bound to the identifier, to the DID. And when wanting to rotate, you can see there's a little 2 underneath the public key there. It's as simple as signing an update to the DID document, putting the new public key like I was showing earlier in the authentication property, and then signing that change with the previous private key, the previous key pair. So in that way, via the DID document mechanism, you can perform key rotation. So maybe this brings me then to one of the potential use cases that I think could be really cool on the OCN, where currently we have parties on the OCN listed in our OCN registry and service registry contracts. They have an address, but that address is bound to a specific private key on the Energy Web chain. It would be a cool use of DIDs, or a really useful use would be if instead of having an address, it was a DID that was bound to the OCPI party using the OCN registry contract, because in that way it would be possible for OCPI users to rotate their keys. So that just one straightforward way of how using DIDs I think could provide some benefit on the OCN already. Not sure if there's any thoughts on that from anyone on the call, from Adam or Robert or Whitney or Robert DeLu.
Just a quick question. What are the keys, or how often do the keys have to be rotated out, the public keys, in terms of like OCN? Is it like a protocol? Is there like an expiration after a certain amount of time, or?
Yeah, on the OCN currently, the keys aren't rotated. So you associate your address with an OCPI party using our OCN registry smart contract.
Okay.
And at that point, the address is associated, right. So
but you want to allow key rotation?
Yeah, with DIDs, you could keep the same address associated, the same identifier associated with the OCPI party, but be able to rotate your key. So yeah, it would enable key rotation.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about then verifiable credentials. Another key part of this self-sovereign identity or SSI ecosystem. They slide in quite well with DIDs. So the relationship there is as a credential subject or as an issuer. Those identities can be DIDs, but they're not necessarily, they don't have to be used together. They're kind of they're technologies in their own right. So on this slide, you can see the structure of a verifiable credential contains claims, credential metadata, and a proof over those claims. So the core of it, I suppose, is the claim saying that a particular credential subject has some attribute. In this case, and the example, Pat is an alumni of Example University. These diagrams are taken, by the way, from the W3C Verifiable Credentials standard. So I'd recommend folks check that out for more information. But like I was saying, yeah, Pat is an alumni of Example University, and that's the claim that is being made in this credential. There's some additional metadata about the claim. There's a credential ID, there's the type of the claim. The issuer there is Example University, and that could be a DID. So like I was saying, that kind of bridges the DID and VC technologies. And then that issuer of Example University can then sign the credential and essentially prove that they have indeed issued it to Pat in this case, or to someone else who wants to be able to share that Pat is an alumni of Example University. So that allows Pat then to present the credential to anyone that he would like, and they can verify that Example University has issued this credential without needing to phone home, as it were, to Example University. The verification process can be done independent of the issuer. That's a key aspect of verifiable credentials. All right, that's a very quick overview. I'll just ask again if there's any questions at this point, or comments as well, of course. Yeah, if not, yes, just to move then to some of the ideation that we could have about how these two technologies could improve the OCN. One idea that I had relates to OCN Services, because as I see it, our current service interface requires agreeing to permissions in a smart contract, which of course makes sense. The OCPI parties, the OCN parties need to agree that they want to indeed use an OCN service. But one way of improving this potentially is using VCs to grant the permissions instead of a smart contract, where an OCPI party would issue a VC to an OCN service, and then that OCN service could present that to the node and saying, yes, this OCN party has allowed me to perform a service. Please forward the request, say, to me, or yeah, or whatever data the OCN service needs to get from the OCN node. It can say that, yes, I'm authorized to get that data because the OCPI or OCN party has issued a VC to me. Yeah, just like I said, just an initial idea of a way that I think these technologies could help. Any thoughts on this idea at all? If not, maybe I'll open it up if there's any other comments on DIDs and VCs and how you see it potentially relating to the OCN, or if there's more information you think that would be helpful, maybe in future calls we could discuss to feed the ideation.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think one potential route we could go is by creating a similar concept like the OCN bridge, so like a separate component that could also retrofit DIDs. So that's something where we could actually also add DIDs already to the current OCN release without breaking anything. And maybe also for the use case of the DIDs, then of course these identifiers will not be exclusive to the OCN anymore, but the identifiers could actually be used outside of the OCN. So I think this is also like the big idea behind these DIDs in general, since they are based on standards that are adopted by industries worldwide, not just energy, not just mobility, but in all kinds of different areas. You could just have this identity and then actually use it for energy use cases. You could also use it to pay for parking. So once we have the identity in place, like there's so many different possibilities. And that's also the main reason why we think this could really be a game changer here. But of course, also taking into consideration that this should not really disrupt or the existing infrastructure. So with all of this ID capabilities there, you could have multiple roles in one context. You could be a CPO and MSP. You could all describe all of these features inside the document. And the trust that someone establishes to you is again something that could be modeled application specific. So if the car is allowed to participate in certain energy markets, or if your payment credentials are accepted to pay for your parking ticket, all of this would be possible to be enabled by this DID structure. And the OCN is really just the base use case, which is then able to, just like an app store, enable companies to develop their own applications on top. And that's the real, I think that's the long-term vision, to enable all of the different use cases through the OCN service interface. And then you can think of any e-mobility related use cases and build them on top of the OCN platform. And it being a free architecture as it already is today, you can do this without paying any service fees. So that's the vision behind this big change.
Thanks. Yes, I agree with that. There's some great points there. What you started with the bridge to enable interoperability with the current system. I think that could definitely work. I think a really cool feature of well, one thing I didn't mention is that the example portion of the DID it refers to the DID method, and a DID method that is used heavily at an Energy Web simply uses existing Energy Web chain addresses as the identifiers. So I can certainly see it being the case where all existing addresses that folks are using already for their OCN identities would simply transition without any effort into being a DID. It would be more like an upgrade to the node that, but that should be backwards compatible, certainly with the current identities. Great. Yeah, I don't have much more to add on this topic. I just wanted to get the ball rolling, give an intro on some of the concepts. But yeah, I will move it along then to this our closing here, and of course open it up to any other topics that folks want to cover. I'm sure DIDs and VCs will have space for further discussion in the future. Was there anything else that folks wanted to discuss on this call?
Not me.
All right, well, yeah, the recording will be available and afterwards. And for anyone listening, definitely check out our docs at docs.openchargingnetwork.org. We have the community Slack channel, which is open to anyone to join. And our next community call will be already in July. Time flies. If there's nothing else, then I think we'll give back half an hour from the planned meeting and see everyone next month.
Hey, thanks, guys.
John.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.